I love growing plants that are not only beautiful but are edible too. It's like having the best of both worlds. They make the garden look pretty and you can use them in the kitchen too. I think this is something that you can keep in mind if you're a small space gardener. Like if you're growing in pots, a courtyard, or just a small veggie patch and you want some colour in there to make it look pretty, well, I've got some good news for you. There's plenty of food plants that have colourful leaves, stems, or even flowers before they turn into fruit and veg. So you can enjoy the beauty and still make the most out of your small space. Like, look at these flowers. A beautiful vibrant red at the entryway of the raised garden bed area growing up this trellis. They really draw your eye, well at least for me they do, into this little garden space. These are the scarlet runner bean blooms. Eventually they'll fade away and the bean pods will form, which are really delicious and easy to grow. This plant is the perfect mix of beauty and usefulness. Another great ornamental plant is nasturtiums. Their flowers and leaves are edible. They have a bit of a peppery flavour, so it's not for everyone. But you could grow like trailing varieties, and what they do is they just tend to wander around the area where you've planted them. They look very attractive and they're useful too. Here's one way you can use them in the kitchen. I use these peppery edible nasturtium leaves to make a quick garden snack. Cream cheese, capsicum and some preserved lemon from our tree. The lemon pieces add a salty citrus hit. A delicious quick meal with ingredients from our cottage garden. Stuffed edible flowers are something a bit different to dish up over the holiday season. I fill them with diced up capsicum, sour cream, cream cheese and seasoning, and they taste great served with some homemade cranberry sauce. Over here I've got some rainbow chard, striking with its bright colourful stems. They come in an array of colours. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, orange, red, pink and yellow like what you see here. This plant is more of a cool season crop. The only reason why it's still growing here in my patch in late spring is because it's getting protected from the harsh sun by some plants that are growing near it, which are shading it out from the heat of the day. The other option is you can create a frame with some bamboo sticks or whatever you have handy, and then you can drape some shade cloth over that to protect this plant. Now this week we had a couple of super hot days, so I'm surprised it's looking all right. One was 39 degrees and the other one was in the high 30s, and for some reason this plant's doing all right. I guess it's only 2 days. Wait until we start getting a week of that kind of temps over 35 and this will just start to die off. A couple of weeks ago I mentioned to you that I had this space that I wanted to clear out to prepare for some cut flower seedlings. Now as you can see I didn't get much done, even though I was out here for a couple of hours. There is a good bit of clearing but you can't really tell, it's not that obvious, so I have to get this finished in the next week or so. The soil in here is actually pretty good. There are patches that are quite sandy, but I was thinking if I could just rake this, spread it out along and maybe add some compost and manures, that would help amend it. So my plans for this area are to do a patch of amaranthus, which I will probably just direct sow along the back, as well as a big patch of sunflowers so they can grow up along that fence. And then I'm going to have at least 2 rows here where I'll be putting in zinnia seedlings and celosia, and I actually have quite a few feverfew seedlings that have popped up down the back of the garden. I was thinking of digging them up and perhaps putting them along the front here, or if I get a bit tight for space, I do have this section which I've grown in before. I've grown zucchinis, tomatoes, even though it's part of the driveway. I think if I just stay down this section it shouldn't get in the way of the car. And I've been hemming and hawing about what to do with this, which is a verbena. Is it verbena? Yeah, I think so. It's like a shrub. I'm thinking of just chopping that back because it is taking up quite a big area and I need as much space as possible to grow my cut flowers. I'm down in the back of the garden, and here are the feverfew plants I was talking about. There's a roughly, I counted, I think there's about 10 of them. They're growing amongst the weeds. Remember, this is the part of the garden that got dug up for the renovations, so it's an absolute mess. But I do have some lovely little surprises here or there, and I think it'll be worthwhile digging these up. Now don't forget, I have that other patch, the cut flower bed, that's not on my property, and there are some feverfew plants there that I can dig up and transplant too. So I'll just see how I go with what's in this area. Like there's one there, and here, there's one over there. Oh, there's just so many of them. I think that looks like one there too. Yeah, I think I'll be grand. I'll have plenty of them. This place is such a mess. Anyway, I was talking to the builder, and they're going to be coming out here soon to flatten out the land again, so I'll be able to start using it. Before they do that, I really want to harvest all of these, which are the Mizuna seed pods. And you know, when I was looking at them, I'm thinking what I might actually do with them is try and make some kind of wreath. I mean, I don't think I could ever sell it because some of the pods do have a bit of browning and black on them. But I thought maybe I could make something just for my house. There's like huge amount there, lots of possibilities. So as well as saving seeds, I'll be able to make something pretty out of these for Christmas. Taking a closer look, it seems like some of these little seed pods have already burst open and probably have scattered all around this area. So there is a possibility I'll be getting plenty of these self-seeding. There's another patch over here near that one I just showed you. I'm thinking what I'll do to save myself time and try and get this job done quickly is just yank out the entire plant from the ground. The ground should be not too soft, or fairly soft, I mean, because we did have a bit of rain, so they should come out fairly easy enough. And then I will just hang these upside down to dry out a bit more. They are a bit damp because of the rain we got last night. Maybe next week we'll play around with these and see what I can come up with. Also down the back I have this huge row of poppy seed pods. These are the peony salmon poppies, which I showed you before. They all self-seeded. It's one of my favorite poppies to grow here in the garden, and I'm thinking I'll pull these all out the same as the Mizuna plants just from the base. They should pop out fairly easily, and then hang this upside down to dry out even more, because ideally I want these pods to be nice and brown. I can't believe it, we're starting to get dahlias. This is one of the plants that I left in ground over winter, because you remember I did dig up quite a lot of these tubers. I showed you those 2 boxes, but with some I just left in the garden beds, and I'm glad I did, because obviously they're way ahead of the other ones that I only planted about 2 or 3 weeks ago. These ones are putting out heaps and heaps of flower buds. Now, while I don't think these will be ready next week, well, they won't be, it'll probably be another couple of weeks, I do actually have a flower order for next Wednesday, so I need to get something together for that. Luckily I have plenty of other blooms in the garden that I can use. Here's another plant with this flower opening. So far no petal damage. Last year I had awful trouble with the grasshoppers. They were munching on the petals and the foliage, and actually taking a bigger look at this plant here, this patch I've got, there is petal damage. I'm not quite sure what's doing this. I just really hope I get plenty of blooms this year. That stem's going to be pretty. It's got 3 buds on the one stem. This one will look really nice in a bouquet. There's so much damage on these lily petals, like look at that. And in fact I noticed on one of the orange ones that this may have happened while they were still a tight bud, because if we take a look over here, oh, it's this one, looks all right from that side, but let me show you the other side. It has been eaten pretty bad, and am I looking at some slug or snail poop there? Looks like it, doesn't it? You guys are going to think I'm terrible. You know, I haven't even thinned out the apples yet. I'd mentioned last Friday I was going to make some chutney or even jelly potentially with these thinned out immature apples, but haven't done it. Maybe next week. I had a feeling this was going to happen. These are the Jerusalem artichoke plants, and as you can see most of them have started to flop over. These plants can get very tall and top heavy. All you need is a bit of wind and they collapse over like what you're seeing here. I'm going to have to prop all of these up by creating a frame maybe of, you know, wooden stakes and corralling it with some string, because I'm planning on using these stems as the foliage for my bouquets. And with this particular plant, when it does flop over like this, it does this process where you can see here with this stem, it bends and it reaches for the sun. So see how that's curved just down here, which is not ideal to put in a bouquet because it's just going all over the place. Like, can you imagine that sticking out to the side? It's very difficult to manage when you're trying to put the arrangement together. This is called phototropism. I just snapped this stem so we could take a better look. Even better now that I've removed the foliage. Phototropism is the plant's natural response to light, where it grows or bends in the direction of the light to maximize photosynthesis. The sooner I sort this out, the better, because while it's not impossible to get the stems to straighten up again, sometimes when the stems are mature, they won't move back to the way they originally were. So while these are still quite small, the stems, I think I've got a fairly good chance of getting them straight again. I'm back over at the Veggies. It's beginning to rain, so I'm going to head inside. Sorry I didn't get to say hi at the start of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all again next Friday, and I hope you have a wonderful week and happy gardening.